So if you're a pet owner or an animal lover, this particular story is going to hit close to home to you guys. According to CTV News, Canadian pet owners are avoiding veterinary visits, a new report finds. Amid the rising costs of veterinary care, nearly half of Canadian pet owners are avoiding taking their pets to a veterinarian, according to a recent report. The report is based on a study published by PetSmart Charities of Canada in partnership with Gallup, which explored the veterinary habits of pet owners combined with the potential barriers they face when it comes to caring for their pets. Marie Holowachuk, author and veterinary critical care specialist, told CTV Your Morning last Monday was a myriad of costs associated with adopting a pet and caring of them. There's going to be costs associated with getting them spayed and neutered, vaccinated, and microchipped, Holowak said. And then, of course, everything else like food, bedding, leashes, litter boxes, depending on if you have a dog or a cat, it can be astronomical and into thousands of dollars. According to a survey report on the cost of a dog parenthood in 2025, the annual cost for caring for a pet can range for as low as $1,400 to as high as $4,480 for a lifetime of care. It may cost anywhere between $17,000 and $53,000, the report suggests. Holowachuk added that there was an uptick in pet ownership and adoption during the COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in an increase in demand for veterinary services. Over the years, too, our pets have become much more a part of our family, she explained. Families are wanting to do more and more to expand their lives and to give them the best care that they can. Holowachuk said that all these factors in combination have resulted in a hike in the cost of veterinary services for a pet. She also suggests that Canada is seeing shortages of veterinarians, which has been challenging on the industry. Holowachuk emphasizes that issues like inflation and the ongoing tariff situation between Canada and the United States has played a role in the hike in all pet-related costs. There are some pet families that have had to not go forward with veterinary care that they wish they could just because they can't afford it, she said. Additionally, she pointed out the importance of preparing for your pet by investing in pet insurance. The good news is that a lot of veterinary practices are recognizing that pet owners need to budget, Holowachuk said, and there's also wellness plans. However, if a pet owner needs coverage for vaccinations and occasional illnesses, there are packages available that can be paid for monthly or annually, she explained. So, I mean, I'm not shocked by this. Sadly, I'm not shocked by this. I mean, you're talking about the same country where our own citizens are avoiding, food. They're avoiding entertainment. They're avoiding, hanging out with friends and family because they're budgeting because of, paying for the necessities, paying for rent, paying for their bills, putting everything on credit. The fact that the job market is more sketchy than ever. Doesn't surprise me that pets are also now feeling the burden. And it's not, their fault by any means. It's not even the pet owner's fault by any means, but you're in a situation where things are getting worse. The Canadian government is making it more of a burden for everyday necessities to be such a cost burden that's costing an arm and a leg to even get groceries at this point. So it's sad. It's obviously just sad. It's disappointing. This should be waking up people, alarm bells to say that our current system, our current methods, the, policies that are being driven out across this country, it is not working. It is not helping our people. It is now taking effect on our animals, which is just goes to show you the domino effect that this plays and how it's going to be devastating for all walks of life on this planet, including our four-legged friends. So here are some of the comments that people made under that story that was tweeted out. And it says, yeah, I was charged $600 to euthanize a guinea pig. $600 to euthanize a guinea pig. Holy crap. How again, I'm not a mathematician. I can't do the estimates on why it would cost that much, but $600. My wife and I just spent $6,000 in 3 days, and puppy still passed away. He just turned 4, French Bulldog. Oh, my condolences. Ontario is one of the only couple of provinces that do not require a cap be put on basic veterinary care, so prices in this province are enormous. I don't know what vets are thinking, that rich people are going to keep them in business. That's not what's going to happen. This guy, Scott Alexander, says, criminal enterprise, far cheaper to take my pets into the States, and in my experience, the service has been superior for about half the cost, even with our floundering currency. They need to regulate that entire industry because private equity companies have been slowly buying up independent clinics and raising prices for all treatments and services. I think I've heard that one before. That happens more and more frequently. And also this woman points out, says Canadians are avoiding everything: vets, dentists, grocery stores, vacations, cars, etc. It's because they're living off credit after their rent mortgages doubled during the Liberals' vision for Canada. The youth are avoiding jobs as well because there are none. So this is just a spiral effect that's now taken upon our animals, the most innocent creatures in our society. They're the ones that are now getting burdened because everything else is just becoming this whirlwind of a disaster because the heinous actions of our governments. And things are only getting worse. Things are only getting worse as time is going on, as people are trying to twiddle their thumbs and say, well, just wait and see, let's see what happens. Maybe Mark Carney can twist things around. I don't know how long it's going to take for people to wake up and realize this. I don't know what's going to take for people to finally kick in to the fact that the entire system is corroded. The entire system is plotted against you. And that we are in this struggle because we elected, not even really elected, we selected a capitalist enterprise, private equity prime minister to take this country hostage, liquidate its assets for their private equity buddies, and screw over Canadians. That's what's happening here. And it's just become a whirlwind effect where basic services are costing more of a burden. People are putting more and more credit, causing more and more debt. And young people that want to start a life, that want to make a living, that want to contribute and be a prosperous Canadian, feel the most discouraged because there's no jobs for them. There's no jobs. There's no opportunities. There's no way to put their feet on the ground to actually make some headway. Here's this guy, Petey, who says nearly all vets have been privatized by foreign-owned companies looking to extract every last dollar of Canadians. My cat is on a medication for life. Why do I need to pay for the same yearly visit to confirm that they still need the same medication? It's medical extortion 101. So, a lot of people are stating that this is a private equity problem. That's because these multinational corporations, these private equity firms that don't have anything to do with veterinary services, they don't have anything to do with restaurants, they don't care about this, they don't care about that. They're buying up these properties and assets so that they can grow their portfolio and take acquisition of properties so that if a company does go down, they can just replace it with something else and just have acquisition over the property. But is that exactly true? Are their statements actually holding up? Well, according to this from CBC, they did a marketplace study on this and says how the corporatization of vet clinics is driving up prices across the country. Lack of transparency in ownership means consumers may not know who is behind their pet's care. And this came out in January of this year. So they might be onto something. The commenters, the people sharing that article, they might be onto something about this. When Maja Terzic brought her sick cat to the vet, she agreed to a few $100s in blood work to hopefully find out what was wrong with him. Guppy was then whisked away back to the room. I was just in kind of a dark. I didn't know what was happening, she said. An hour later, she was handed a $1,100 bill full of tests and treatments she says she never agreed to. My stomach literally dropped. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to do the credit card, not the debit card today, said Terzic, who had no idea the clinic was owned by the largest veterinary consolidator in Canada, Vet Strategy. Terzic's experiences mirrors that of a rising number of pet owners who say they've been seeing a dramatic increase in their veterinary bills in the past few years, a trend that's arisen alongside the practice of multinational corporations quietly buying up independent vet clinics across the country. Before 2010, almost all vet clinics in Canada were owned by the vet you visited. Today, more than half of emergency and specialty hospitals and more than 20% of all clinics are owned by 6 corporations. The 3 biggest players in Canadian pet care are Vet Strategy, BCA Canada, and NVA Canada. Between them, they own more than 600 clinics. These 3 companies are owned and operated by international conglomeracies. Go figure. Go figure. They would also include vets in their portfolio. I guess they really care about your dog and cat and guinea pigs and hamsters. I'm sure they had the best interest in your 4-legged friends. Or is it because they're shadowy kind of cartel mafia men and women, not to be sexist about it, that just want a piece of the action? The same way that Bill Gates wants a piece of the medical action without actually knowing anything about medicine whatsoever. Or, Jeff Bezos at Amazon want a piece of Whole Foods, even though not knowing anything about grocery stores. It's because they care so much, right? It's because they care. They're philanthropists. They care so much about the situation. It can't be the fact that they want a piece of the action. They want to deteriorate the service. People still going towards it, but the service is getting worse and worse and worse. You don't have direct access to a proper vet that actually deals directly with your loved animal and your pet. But they just want to rake in the cash. It's wow. Of course it would be that. To see what type of care would be recommended and how much it would cost at corporate-run clinics, CBC's Marketplace scheduled appointments at 6 different clinics across Toronto, all of them owned by VCA or Vet Strategy. The majority of complaints Marketplace received were from these both 2 chains. Following consultations from veterinarians on how to design the spot check, Marketplace took Stella, a healthy 4-year-old female Labrador Retriever, to each clinic and described symptoms that suggest a possible urinary tract infection. All the veterinarians who saw Stella agreed, based upon the description provided, that it seemed like a dog had a urinary tract infection. However, the treatment plans and the cost of the recommended care varied. When it came to pricing, all the clinics' examined fees were within a similar range of $127 to $142 before tax. But the prices for a diagnostic test called urinalysis varied considerably, the lowest at $47 and the highest coming at $175. Dr. Ivan Zak, a Moncton-based veterinarian, says this is an example of how corporate veterinary clinics often use shoppable and non-shoppable items to their advantage. Veterinary clinics know that the consumers call around to ask about exam fees, he says, but people are less likely to ask for price estimates on procedures or things like diagnostic tests. Within the same corporation, VCA, the price for a urinalysis done in-house varied considerably between two clinics, one charging $100 and another charging $175. Based on the pricing document, the Ontario Veterinary Medical Association provides to veterinarians and obtained by Marketplace, the average urinalysis fee charged in Ontario in 2024 was $124. Megan, a former VCA employee whose name Marketplace changed to protect her identity, was provided a document by her clinic's regional manager that suggested several different price points for treatments and services. This creative pricing model, she says, was put in place so that not all prices were increasing by the same amount at the same time at the clinics. She says it is done deliberately to hide the increases from consumers, pointing to two different urinalysis prices within VCA's clinics Marketplace visited as an example of creative pricing at work. So it sounds like to me they're doing this elaborate kind of scheme to not explain that of why they're increasing the prices. It's not like they're saying that it's costing so much because inflation or lack of resources or, the cost of getting the equipment for these treatments is astronomical. They're not telling you any of this stuff. So using this creative pricing is allowing for these multinational henchmen that buy up these veterinarian clinics the same way they buy up restaurants, the same way they buy up hotels, the same way they buy up all these different entities. And you notice how service gets worse and worse. You wonder why they resort to cheap foreign labor and not hire Canadians. You wonder why they're wrecking the brand. It's not because the brand decided to screw itself. It's because these private equity mafia goons don't care about these brands. They don't care about the service. They want the asset. They want the value of the property or the value knowing that, hey, you're going to take your pet to the vet at some point. So you might as well go to a shitty one because, hey, guess what? We own all the shitty ones. And they're going to use this model, this creative pricing, to try to scorn out more Canadians that have to cough up more dollars for services that they know they're getting screwed over, but they're not being told they're getting screwed over. Because it's nothing to do with the actual analysis. It has nothing to do with the service. It has to do with the fact that these companies want to get more out of Canadians. According to Marketplace, according to CBC analysis. And also the fact that, as I stated before, you're talking to people that are skipping meals. You're talking to people that, 2 million of them are lining up at food banks every month. You're talking to people that are on the verge of dying off in the streets due to a homelessness epidemic. So I'm not surprised by this story. It saddens me. I feel even more, gut felt by hearing just this story that now, your four-legged furry friends, man's best friend, your dog, your cat, your, beloved pets are now being impacted by this. And it's not their fault. It's not even the pet owner's fault for this just absolute malice contraption, this malice system that's epitomizing against Canadians. It's the fact that we are being hijacked and controlled by a politician, Mark Carney, who is a private equity master, who doesn't care about Canada, who who doesn't care about this country. He hasn't been here in the last 10 years, able to take control and is liquidating all the country's assets to private equity firms and screwing more and more people because he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the country, just like these companies don't care about vets. They don't care about pets. They don't care about the services. They don't care if your cat lives or not. They just want the money. They want the value that comes out of veterinary service. They want the value that comes out of McDonald's restaurant. They want the value that comes out of a hotel chain. They don't care. They don't care if the brand goes to shit. They don't care if it's, nobody goes there anymore. That's why Cracker Barrel did that rebranding. It's not because they just decide, hey, we want to make a restaurant worse. It's because the private equity firm that bought out Cracker Barrel wants to rebrand it and just make it as bland as possible. People are still going to go there. They're still going to eat there, but it's not the same as the iconic brand because they don't give a damn. And that's what's proving here. These private equity multinational corporations, which I hope more and more people recognize as horror to our country, to our institutions. And, people like Rebel News have pointed out that they're willing to call out by name for abusing temporary foreign workers, for shunning out eligible Canadians, for prosperous jobs that anyone would love to take a part of. $36 for, supervising position at Tim Hortons or McDonald's. Anyone would go for it. But they're only reaching out to multinational illegal migrants to scam the job. That's private equity. That's private equity. They want to cut costs as much as possible, make the brand just so deteriorating. They don't care about it, but they care about the value that asset holds. They care about having that dense portfolio of acquiring all these different services and different accounts and these are just giant monopolies. And it's about time we start having more and more antitrust laws come about to break up these monopolies and get back to the fundamentals.